Boys Breakdown. We're going to be recapping this past fight night, headlined by Spivac and Tybura, and the rematch that nobody asked for. Man, how you doing on this Sunday afternoon?
I'm good. I'm good. And you know what? At least the UFC respected the fact that, yeah, nobody wanted this card, so they kept it at 10 fights, which I kind of like. After having a 5-5 card, or I guess this was 4-6. This is weird, but either way, I like a 10 fight card. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm getting kind of old with the 13 and 14 fight cards.
Like it's yeah, I mean, especially on the Apex card, right? Like I get it, maybe on like a pay per view, but they better be fights worth watching. Like if it can't be 14 fights with five of them being nothing burgers. You know what I'm saying?
I couldn't agree more. Now, that being said, this fight only had three bonuses, or this fight night only had three bonuses given out. Daniel apparently was pissed about the performances from the fighters.
Yeah, he's been on that lately, and all the weight misses. I mean, yeah, this is one of those days where you get to the office on Monday and the manager just ripping everybody a new one. I mean, kind of rightfully so, though. I mean, like, because a lot of the performances were like uninspired performances. It's not like
Danny Barlow, the least inspired performance of all time.
Chris. I would argue
Yeah,
Chris
Christian.
Gutierrez.
You're a great. Yeah, Chris. I'm going to say Rodriguez 5 times tonight, but yes, Gutierrez almost sketched away his fight.
What was that? Out
Long
on Chris Gutierrez. Like we're gonna get to it, but I'm like,
leg kick machine, Chris Gutierrez. But I do have a pretty a nice little takeaway for this first fight. If you want to dive into it.
Yeah. So a headline: Marcin Tybura, heavyweight, obviously. Finished up plus 125. We took him as our dog of the week. Little 1 unit sprinkle at plus 140. Came in this fight ranked number 8. Taking on Serghei Spivac, minus 150, ranked number 9. I mean, you said you had a hot take about this one or something to say. I'll turn the floor over to you because I don't got too much to say. So, yeah, I'll turn the floor over to you.
I have to put some respect on Serghei Spivac's name. I think he's actively getting better as he's like getting through his UFC career. He's not that old. I think he's 29. And so his growth from 25 to 29 is pretty impressive. And then also, if it was true that he was not able to train for the 3 weeks leading into this fight and kind of just pulled the rabbit out of the hat,
I didn't know that.
That's what he said in his post fight. I don't know about that being
Okay.
how true that is, but I also thought on the feet he looked better with his hands, and that's why Tybura tried to grapple, and Spivac got his back. Obviously, got the first takedown, got reversed, but then subbed him. I think Spivac looked really good in this fight.
See, yeah, and like Spivac, it's so hard to tell if his wins are good or if he's catching these guys like as they're like washed. Like
I
the
know.
Derek Lewis win, we didn't come away from that saying, "Wow, how good is Serghei Spivac?" We came away from that when I remember talking about it on the pod, like, "Oh, Derek Lewis is washed," and I kind of feel the same way about Tybura. Like, and maybe I'm just being a Spivac hater, but I don't come out of this thinking like, "Whoa." Look out, heavyweight division. Spivac's coming for you. I come out of this thinking like, 38 years old. Like, I guess, like, like caught Tybura at the right time.
I
Like,
I guess the way I really thought about it was like I never felt like I never felt good about having Spivac in my top 10. Like I never felt good about that, right? Now I feel like
and
I'm okay with it.
yeah, I feel that, but I really do. And once again, I guess I'm Kendrick Lamar on my hater shit today. Like, I think that's an indictment on the heavyweight division
Oh
more than it
yeah,
is
no,
even
it's
like a feather in the cap of Spivac.
between women's bantamweight and men's heavyweight. It's the two worst divisions in all of fighting, and it's not even close.
Fucking, I may after the Carol Hosa performance, I may take women's bantam. Actually, I think I will, like pretty like confidently.
I mean,
Uh,
you know what I will say
but they
though,
don't
for
have an
heavyweight, they
Aspinall.
don't
They
have
don't have an
Aspinall. It's
Aspinall.
exactly what I was gonna say. Is Tom Aspinall is the saving grace to the division of heavyweight.
But definitely deeper, like without a doubt, deeper.
What
It's deeper. I'm like not the star power, but like
for belt contention though? I don't know.
yeah, it's
Because
all hot dog
I feel
shit.
like
But
there's two girls that are really gonna be fighting for that belt, and one is Kayla Harrison, and the other one is any girl that's fighting against her. That's kind of how I feel about that division.
yeah. Which it was the same way when Nunez was there. And then like I don't know, like once again, sipping my haterade over here. I like Spivac, you fancy yourself a grappler. We saw how easy John Jones would, and I'm not saying you have to be John Jones, but like how did you not like take down Gon and submit him? Like after seeing what we saw, like
It's
you
a great
fancy yourself
point.
a grappler? Like what are we even? I don't know, bro. Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I mean, let's see. Where I moved Spivac in my power rankings. I moved him to 9. So I had him basically like where the UFC has him. It's weird. I have Stipe at 8, largely due to
You're
this
not wrong for that.
inactivity
Yeah, inactivity,
and
age.
but like you wouldn't, even at this point, even all that considered, you wouldn't jump Spivak over even wash Stipe, would you? I don't think I would. I couldn't do it.
No, I don't. And that's what I'm saying with Spivak is like I think he's top 10, but I do think there's like still 2 to 3 tiers above him. Like I think heavyweight's a weirdly tiered out because there's like the
Yeah,
Aspinall Jones tier.
there's the
And
Aspinall Jones tier, and then at least I'm reading off mine. I have it Blades Almeida gone, and then you got like Volkov, Pavlovich, Wash, Stipe, Spivak.
yeah, and oddly enough, I think Spivak could even be outside of that tier, right? Like those 3 guys I
Yeah,
think all kind of wax out Spivak. Now
you know
age
what? I'm
is
adding the tier. I actually like. It makes a lot of sense what you just said there because you're not wrong. Like that name, so one of these things is not like the other.
that's what I'm saying, and I think the closest guy to jumping a tier out of those is Volkov getting into the Gon tier.
Exactly.
I think
I
that's the
agree.
closest guy to making a jump there. So, and what I mean by saying that is like Spivak clearly isn't those guys you named, and I think John Jones and Tom Aspinall are clearly above everyone else that's in between.
I'm right there with you, bro. And then Tybura, man, I dropped him below Mick Parkin, man. Like I said, I
I
attribute a lot of
know.
this to age. I just don't know. I don't know if it's age, focus. I'm sure he stacked a decent a little bit of coin. I'm sure money, U.S. currency goes a long way in Poland. Like I don't know. Maybe it's the whole sleeping on satin sheets thing. You know what I mean? He's
Well,
been around a long time. He's cashed some checks.
so they talked about how he used to do his camps in the UFC or in Vegas, and then recently in the last like year and a half, he switched and started doing his camps back in Poland at like a smaller camp that's dedicated just to him. And I kind of hate when I hear that from fighters, especially toward the end of your career, because it's kind of like the Tony Ferguson did the exact same thing, where it's like, all right, so you're pretty much hard to work with. You don't want to train the young lions or help the young bulls, and you're just kind of the old cat that's out to die.
It's seeking comfort, right? As opposed to
Yeah,
seeking discomfort, which like
right.
there's a reason why the NFL send their teams to these shitty like community colleges for training camp. It's like you want to seek out discomfort and like kind of chisel that away,
I
you
also feel
know.
like it's like an inability to accept the reality they might not be the best guy in that gym anymore.
Yeah. Oh, ego thing. I didn't think about that
Yeah, because
angle.
I think when young guys come up in those gyms and those old vets have to fight them in training and they have a bad sparring day against them, I think that's like a mental break for them because they're like, this kid's not even in the UFC and he's like giving me these hard rounds. Like, fuck.
That's a solid point. I mean, we didn't even touch on the X's and O's. It was actually one of the best finishes of the night, even though there was only 3 finishes on the night, I do believe. But
All 3 get a
Spivak actually
bonus.
gets. Yes, yes. Which so does Spivak here with this arm bar from the bottom. It was actually hilarious on the
Yeah,
broadcast. Bisping and Felder were literally like trolling and joking, like, "Oh, heavyweights never get subs from the bottom. What's he doing?"
especially
And
not arm
then,
bars.
yeah, and then he fucking throws up the arm bar, and I mean, the world's quickest verbal tap ever by Tybura.
Yeah. And then Tybura acting like he was laying on the ground and was like, oh, is my elbow good? Then he immediately posts on his elbow and gets up on that arm. And I was like, you're such a pussy.
Yeah, John McCarthy on weighing in was talking about this. Obviously, he's somebody who is like a good opinion. It's like the perfect question to ask John McCarthy because Josh Thompson was asking him about the verbal tap, and John McCarthy said something I didn't know. I learned something today that like a cry of pain, the verbal tap,
Really?
and they're warned in the back. Yeah, so that's why like Tony Ferguson and Makayev, you have to be like a sociopath about it. You have to just like stone face through
Just
it.
say no words.
Then they won't stop it. But if you're like, apparently Tybura didn't even say the words like I tap. He just was like, ah, like,
Yeah, I went back and listened to it again and I never heard like tap, tap, tap. I just heard like, and I was like, is that?
yeah. John McCarthy was talking about that. He said the fighters are warned in the back that like screams of pain. I think that's the same reason, like when Aspinall tore his ACL, the fight was
Mm.
stopped. Versus there's been other fighters that tore their ACL and the fight kept going. It's like the scream of pain. counts as a verbal tap. So listen, I learned something today. Hopefully you did too.
Yeah,
Watching the pod here, but
actually, yes,
yeah,
makes sense to me.
but yeah. Armbar comes at 1 minute and 44 seconds. Like I said, great win for Spivac. And at 29 years old, we've talked about this in other divisions. Like he may just outlast these guys. He may end up being top 5 just because, I mean, age. You got Stipe, Volkov. I mean, I don't know how many more L's Curtis Blades is trying to take.
I
Jones is
mean,
going to retire. Like,
so let me ask you for next up. Do you make Spivac and Almeida fight, or do you do Spivac Blades?
it's crazy because I've seen both on X. I'll say this: Almeida called him out on X like directly.
I like
So
the Almeida fight more.
I think the Blades is probably a like quote unquote bigger fight. Like that probably gets you on the main card
Oh
for the pay per
yeah,
view.
if I'm Spivac, I want Blades all day. But like, I think as a fan, what's right is probably Almeida Spivac.
Yeah, I'm cool with either, but I honestly it stems from like lack of giving a shit. To be honest, like
I
I like
know.
sure, like as Chen would say, interchangeable mediocrities. Granted, they're good heavyweights. I wouldn't say mediocrity, but just like for the little phrases like applicable to this scenario, just because it's kind of like who cares? But yeah, I mean, it kind of does care because I feel like that's like if you beat Almeida or if you see that's another thing. Like I don't know what Almeida gains from beating Spivac. I guess like gets him back on track after the Blades KO. I guess just
Yeah,
kind of
and like
rights the ship.
matchups wise, like a guy that weighs 238, if you're Almeida, you definitely want that fight because all these other guys have been outweighing you, outsizing you. You've been having to work your ass off for takedowns on the fence and getting elbows to the side of your head. It's not really how Spivac fights.
That's true. But for that same like what you just said, like I think Blades could probably still beat Spivac.
Oh
Like I don't
yeah,
know,
oh
like
yeah.
if I'm like just being delusional because Spivac doesn't have that knockout power,
I
and
think
he's
Spivac
smaller and he's going
loses
to
to
try to
both those
grapple him.
guys. Oddly enough, just in
Yeah,
style. Like I think Almeida's size and style is going to be really hard for Spivac to overcome.
agreed with that take. But we'll keep it pushing here to this co-main, which is actually I wouldn't even say it was a banger because it was a one-sided ass
It was an
whooping. But
ass whooping that was fun to watch. I'll say that.
exactly, it was entertaining on a night full of not very entertaining fights. We got Damon Jackson plus 155 taking on Chepe Mariscal. Now, the big blemish on this one, Mariscal weighs in at 149 and a half for a featherweight bout.
Tough.
So bad weight miss. And then I didn't even really like what he had to say after the fight. I don't know if you caught that. He was like, I almost pulled out of this one because of shame. It's like, then do it or don't do it and then tell it to shove it up our
Yeah,
asses. But
like
you can't have it like
either do it and let it be done, or don't say a word and fight.
exactly. I'll say this. I mean, the ass whooping was so dominant. I don't think you can like blame it on the weight cut. Like he would have he would have won that fight. You know, good weight cut, bad weight cut. Like I don't know. I just think he proved that he's levels above Damon Jackson. We will go round by round, not to see who won, but to see by how much, because the scorecards like are pretty wild here. I agree with two of the judges, but it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, how do you score round one, brother?
So, round one, I thought Mariscal pretty in control, looked pretty good, um, getting good damage off, but also like Jackson, you could argue on visible damage was almost better, but it was clash of heads, right? So I don't know if you know that
Yeah,
from the
and then
moment.
Jackson was like landing a lot of those hard knees to the body, but 10-9 Mariscal, I think in one is
That's
fair.
that's
Like
that's what I had. Like I thought it was a competitive round, is what I have in my notes. I didn't say close, but I thought competitive. Like I thought Jackson did enough to make me think like, okay, this would be a good fight. From that point
yeah, they were
on,
getting after it. They were getting after it. Shepe had those like three kind of like judo throw takedowns that were like pretty like
and
impactful.
and he was chasing damage on the in the positions too, which I really liked. Every time they were in a scramble, Chepe was getting off big damage. And that became a theme in round two that I thought broke Jackson.
Man, I think an adjective that you could use to describe Shep and Mariscal is like vicious. He's
Yeah,
vicious. Like he has that killer instinct, and like we talk about that sometimes. Sometimes in the ladies' fights, like do you have that killer instinct? Or I know we've questioned it with guys like Carl Williams and guys like Trey Ogden. Like, are you trying to like hurt this guy, or are you just trying to like point your way to a
even
snooze fest?
Makayev, I question that.
Yeah, exactly. But that is one question. Like that is a box that Mariscal checks. Like in leaps and bounds. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
10 out of 10 out
He's
of 10 times.
vicious.
He's trying to hurt you. I mean, I'd say Julian Erosa fights with that same sort of like tenacity, but Mariscal is just he's really technical with it is the impressive part. Like even for like the brawler transitions where he finds that success, he's really doing good technical things to get in the advantageous spot in the transition.
Got a little Justin Gagey in him, I think
A
it's
little
maybe fair
bit,
to
right?
say. Yeah, like that technical brawler. Yeah, and then I mean, from here on out, I go 10-8-2 and 10-8-3. I could argue it could have and maybe even should have been stopped
I could have argued
in
in
either
round
of those
three.
rounds.
Yeah, it's like if Mariscal's arm. Yeah, I don't know how Damon made it to the bell in round two. And then in round three, I thought when there were maybe 30 seconds left, Chepe probably didn't have the gas left at that point. But if he literally could have just dropped like his arms, like dropped them, like not throwing punches, but literally dropped his hands, and they probably would have stopped the fight. Because Damon Jackson was just shelled, like covering. He was just so beaten
Yeah,
up.
well, and when there was a point in round two where Damon Jackson like had his face on the canvas and like really wasn't intelligently defending. I
I
mean,
thought
like
multiple times he went to an unintelligent defense for 3 to 4 seconds and then would move out of it. I thought Herzog wasn't trying to stop a single fight last night.
agreed, man. Agreed, man. But yeah, I mean, so you end up 30-25 Mariscal as well.
I do, and it was an ass whooping. Like that was one where
I just did as well.
I literally could have seen the corner throwing in the towel in the third round. It was getting so bad.
Probably should have on a guy like Damon Jackson, aging, been knocked out a couple of times.
And like he's on the ground with 2 minutes to go, getting his ass just whooped. Like, do you think he's gonna come back and win the fight? I don't think so.
No, he hadn't thrown up a single submission. He hadn't really got any damage besides the clash of heads. Like, honestly, I'll say, like, shame on his corner, to be honest, like, for letting him
I kind of
take
am at that point, right? And it's like, what was their corner conversation in between two
Well,
and
you
three?
know who his corner is, right?
Say
Your
Sayu.
favorite guy. Yeah, your bro.
Yeah, well, and like they referenced my bro, yeah. They my ultimate fade. They referenced the conversation though coming in around three, and Damon Jackson was saying in the corner like, "I'm not tired." I don't give a fuck if you're tired or not. You're
Yeah,
getting your
that's
ass
not the
whooped.
issue here. Yeah, nobody, like, that's not even, like, the conversation. Like, I think that was, like, some politician shit. Like,
Yeah, it just made me
watch
think
this
like,
hand so you don't see what this hand's doing. Like,
yeah, it literally made me think like this guy's coach just is not like so bad technical coach and maybe even worse like person as a coach.
So Chepe up to 24, and I could be talked into going a little higher. I want to just bounce a couple of names off you real quick if
All
you're
right,
cool with that.
throw him at me. Throw him at me.
So I jumped him over like Gomez and Zalal and Nathaniel Wood. Would you jump him over Steve Garcia? I'm kind of the Steve Garcia nut rider, and he's been sending people to Mars lately.
Yeah,
But Chepe may be more technical, maybe more skilled.
I'm gonna say no, just because Chepe does
Okay.
get hit, and I think Steve Garcia's power might send Chepe to the moon.
All right, fair point. Because I asked myself that same question. Like, yeah, Steve Garcia is different. Now, let me ask you this: would you put Sean Woodson above both of them or either of them?
It's so hard because he, as a matchup, is so difficult. I
Yes.
probably am not taking Woodson against Chepe, but I probably would take him against Steve Garcia. As weird as that sounds, like you're in this weird triangle that's stylistic.
I think it's fair to say they're in the same like 5-man cluster, like they're in the same kind of
Oh
tier.
yeah. Oh yeah.
The 21 to 25 tier. I think they're all right there. Like they're all three of those guys are on the cusp of rankings and could beat ranked guys. Like,
see, because I think
like,
Chepe will get more brawler style with Woodson, get him pressed into a corner or against the cage or close to it, shoot a takedown, hit a judo throw. Like I think Chepe has more versatility to beat Woodson, whereas I think Garcia has the power to beat him, but Woodson is so long and stays so far on the edge that tough for Garcia to win that fight.
Honestly, then I guess that's what I want next for Chepe. I know Chepe wants somebody ranked. I've been seeing people on X throw out the name Sadiq Yusuf, but I think there is some shit that needs to be worked out outside the rankings. You got Gene Silver right there too, very similar tier. John Woodson, Steve Garcia.
Honestly, I would love Gene Silva and Steve Garcia to fight.
That would be the absolute gas. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and then
sign me up for that.
And then you could honestly also give me. I could be talked into a Woodson Zalal rematch.
Woodson Zalal rematch, yeah, because I have Zalal basically like right there, a few below. So
that's what I mean.
Oh, man. Featherweight, I think we got to change into the guard coming up featherweight. Maybe not the very top, but
Leroy Murphy's starting to crack it. He's leading the race as far as the new guard.
but I'm talking about the back end, like the Emmets and the Caters, and maybe even the Chikadzes and the Bryce Mitchells, like the Iges, the Sadiq Yusufs. I think the guys that we just talked about could find themselves in like a generation swap right now and take those guys' spot.
That's what I'm saying. But the one guy that you didn't name in that list that is ranked is Leroy Murphy, and that's because he's in that age group. He's leading the pack.
Yeah, he's part of the new wave for sure. But even the top end, like
you know
Brian
what, though?
Ortega, I'm not convinced we ever see him at featherweight again. You got Sterling, no spring chick. You got Holloway and Volkanovski.
Yeah, but bro, Topuria is 29. It's hard not to argue that he's going to have a nice little reign here if one of these, like if Holloway can't beat him.
Yeah, he can have a nice reign, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think this gives him like fresh title challenges instead of just like watching Ortega get another title shot or fuck it, let's throw Yair in there and see what happens. And like, you know what I mean? Like I'm tired. Like I'm ready. I'm ready for this shift swap, if you will. But man, we and then Damon Jackson, I think like washed fade. Like, sorry, not a whole lot of nice things to say. I gotta say though, I struggled dropping him below Jack Shore, so I still have him at 34. Which kind of seems high, but like I said,
probably about right. Like on a good night, Damon Jackson's solid, and on a bad night, he gets 30-25.
I think he can still beat the Jack Shores and Kolobau and Cub Swansons of the world. Like I think he can still beat those guys. Not would. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I was gonna say him and Kolobau, good fight. Him and Cub Swanson. That's not a terrible fight either at this point in their careers. Like both guys have at least long enough UFC tenure where I don't mind that fight for either guy.
Yeah, let's keep it pushing to a little blue ball crying our beer session real quick, man. We were all over this Danny Barlow by KO by plus 105 prop bet. I think we both had him on some prop parlays that were juicy and that other legs up hit. And so Barlow, man, really let us down. But a little less. I know there's a lot of people out there that were riding now. Like it was all down my X feed of just people salty their Barlow by KO ticket didn't cash.
You know what I'm salty about it though, man, is like the way Danny Barlow fought was just so bitch made. The whole fight. Like honestly, a judge scored at 30-27 for Veretinnikov. That shit's completely out of line. I have no way, I know how to see that. That's Jaron Bellel. He's a ref as well, which is just like even more insane to me.
Yeah, that's so bad. So egregious.
And we'll go round by round because it is a split, and I do have Danny Barlow winning with an agree. Like we have the same. I have the same scorecard as the other two judges. That 30-27 is egregious.
Also, bro, I mean, maybe this is a casual take. I didn't even know you could really miss weight by a quarter pound. I honestly thought they just like round it or
depends on where you fight. A lot of states don't do quarter pounds; they only do halves. And so in those states, you would have made it, but Vegas will do quarters.
Yeah, I learned learned something new.
Which also, like, bro, he had to lose 20% of his purse for 4 ounces, literally the weight of a glove.
Yeah, like I'm shaving my pubes or something, like a quarter pound. Like cut his little rat tail off.
Yeah, like
no way I'm losing money over a quarter.
Yeah,
pound.
honestly, if he has a braided rat tail, that probably is 4 ounces.
Like. Trim your toenail, do what you got to do, bro. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Go jack off, like
go.
Literally, bro. Like 4 ounces is not a lot, dog. Like this Gatorade right here is 20 ounces. This is 5 times what he had to lose.
I heard the commission stopped his weight cut,
and I hate that. Because he's going to lose 20% of his money over a quarter. 4 ounces, bro. The 4 ounces is not going to kill him.
No, it's not. It's not. It's like literally not.
But that being said, he did look like shit. He wins the fight on my scorecard, but looks like shit doing it.
But you know what? And I don't even know if this is an excuse or if it's just like an accurate read of the situation. Like, I mean, you got to attribute the performance to the weight cut, right? Or am I just trying to like give him the benefit of the doubt? Like,
I think that, and also the fact that Veretinnikov threw less than Barlow. Like, that's the thing that like I'm lacking to say here. Is that Barlow threw more strikes than Veretinnikov, and I'm telling you, Barlow was too inactive. Both these guys just did not come to fight because neither of them wanted to lead the dance. They both wanted to be second.
Chris Curtis vibes, right?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, it's exactly what it was. You can't have two people trying to go second. Someone's got to lead, and neither guy was okay to lead for any of the 15 minutes. It was sad.
Sure, man. And then as far as scoring it, man, Danny Barlow minus 395 on the money line, said plus
Jesus
105 by
Christ.
KO. Fighting debut guy who lost his contender series fight to Veretinnikov. Yeah, I mean, I go 1-2 to Barlow because I mean he did outstrike him on the feet and he was defending the takedowns. Round two, I thought he got a little bit of damage off, but like it was just because he does fucking crack, bro. So like even if he's being kind of inactive, he can still crack you a few times and win the damage battle and win
I
the round.
agree. I agree.
Um, and then yeah, I assume you gave round three to Veletnikov.
Yeah, I did. I thought that was his best round of the fight. He clearly knew he had at least lost one of the first two rounds. Um, and yeah, man, I just so out on Barlow after this. Like Veretinnikov, whatever, I don't care. Like as a plus 325, he honestly did better than anyone else expected him to, so good on him. But for Barlow,
See,
it's gonna be hard for me to ride him. I love his intangibles, but man, I'm so conflicted, right? Because like he's looked so good when the weight cut wasn't hard. He looked so bad when the weight cut was hard. I'd have no way to know how his weight cut is though.
I'll say this: I'm not out on him, and here's why. He's had professional fights. Like I think there's like correctable. Like he's not a finished product. I don't believe it's fair to say Danny Barlow is a finished product. But I think we are at kind of a fork in the road of like, all right, are you going to fix this and like take your career more serious and your weight cut? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or are you going to like max out and kind of be mid and go have a, you know, Jeremiah Wells, Trevin Giles ass career? So he's kind of at a crossroads for me. Power rankings wise, I did move him up because I had him like really low, and I think he's not he's not a bad fighter. I think we're just questioning the ceiling of like how high he can take it. So I put him at 41. I couldn't jump him over Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews is just so experienced. He's honestly everything that Barlow is not. Like you
I
know what I mean?
know,
Like,
but like, how weird is it to say that though? You know, like we're trying to, and it's not a bad placement. Like I like where it's at, but it's just like for Barlow, even if he's fighting the guy that's like ranked, if he's fighting the guy that's ranked 37 on your list, let's just say, I don't even know who it is, but just 37 for instance.
okay.
I think that on a good night, Danny Barlow should be close to top 25 based on skill set. But then I see like this performance, and I'm like, I could see him losing to whoever's 46 on your list.
Yeah, and just to kind of emphasize the little analogy here, 46, I got Basil Hoffman. Like, he could for sure lose that fight. And then 37, I have Gunnar Nelson. And Gunnar Nelson could probably find a sneaky little way to win that one, too. Granted, he could also get chinned. But,
Right,
like,
and that's what I'm saying is like Gunnar Nelson could easily lose that fight, or to your credit, Basil Hafez could also win that fight, and that's why I just have such a hard time with Danny Barlow in my head right now.
small sample size, though. I think this is the second UFC fight, maybe third at the most. Like, this will make itself clear eventually. Get 2 or 3 more fights in. I think like the murkiness of this evaluation will kind of like, well, we need more tape. You know what I mean? It's like
I couldn't agree
a
more.
rookie quarterback in like week 3. Like we don't even know what we really got yet. You know what I mean? Like we gotta let this play out. But and then like one last question, we can keep it pushing here. Would you have Danny Barlow ranked ahead of Obon Elliott?
I would, but I'm kind of an Obon Elliott hater.
Yeah, I know you're the wrong guy to ask that, but I have him one spot ahead. So
Like
that's the only
Obon's going to
reason
bring
why I
his
asked
singlet,
that.
and but I don't know if bringing your singlet works against Danny Barlow because he's a counter
I'll
striker
say Obon definitely has better cardio. That's a
and
for
better
damn
wrestling.
sure. Yeah. So, but yeah, interesting. Still a lot of boxes that are not checked for Danny Barlow, I think, is the biggest kind of takeaway here. But man, let's keep it pushing because on a night full of disappointing fights and disappointment in fighters and all that, like I gotta rank this right up there with the top, man. Like Chris
No,
Gutierrez,
nobody performed worse in a win than Chris Gutierrez in this card.
including Danny Barlow, yeah, for sure, man. Because Chris Gutierrez was minus 575 taking on a debut guy. Granted, 8-0 debut guy, but like Chris Gutierrez like has been ranked. Like I think some people thought would be ranked again. And like
Has multiple leg kick finishes.
I'm here to tell you that like I think that this is like we've seen the pinnacle of Chris Gutierrez. I don't think he's like I think he's on the way down. Like I'm on the Chris Gutierrez fade, especially because he has somewhat of a name value. Like he's not going to get easy fights. I'll tell you one thing: he's definitely not getting easier fights than Quang Lee. Quang Lee gave him all he could fucking handle.
I know, which is crazy because like Chris Gutierrez lands 59 significant strikes, 32 of those are leg kicks.
Yeah, and like don't get me wrong, I like leg kicks. I like, and I'm not even saying this in like the colloquial way. Like I literally like leg kicks more than your average UFC fan. Like I really value them. Like I score rounds for them. Like I've been pretty consistent on this show. Like I value that as damage. Same could be said for checking leg kicks. But like it just wasn't enough. Like either do more leg kicks and actually finish him and get him the fuck out of there, or do less leg kicks and like, hey, why don't you do like a question mark kick and send it high, or like, you know what I mean? Like try to like. White says like nobody like he literally was not going for a finish. Like this was the striker version of Trey Ogden. Like finishing this fight was never entered his mind. Like it wasn't even attempted.
Yes, so that's exactly what my takeaway as far as like why I think he looks so worse in a win is because this felt like he was just trying to get a paycheck and get the hell up out of there. And also, yeah, he defended 9 takedowns, but when he did get taken down, he was fucked. He was in Foxville.
Yeah. Once Quang Lee got him down, I mean, like 2.5 minutes of control.
I mean, it was enough to win Quang Lee ranked round 2 on my card.
My card as well, and I believe all 3 judges' scorecards because they're all 29-28.
Right. Which if you're trying to sketchily point fight your way to a victory, like you can't be giving up takedowns for 2.5 minutes of ending a round.
Well, that's just like, yeah. So if Quang Lee's taking him down, like what's Rinya Nakamura gonna do to you? What's Dominic Cruz gonna do to you? I mean, Henry Cejudo. I mean, Mario Bautista. I mean, Davison Figueiredo. Like these guys can all wrestle, man. They can all wrestle. You cannot, my friend. Even like he was supposed to fight Basharat. I forgot which one, but
Basharat would have smoked him. In all honesty, man. After seeing what I saw, Basharat would have probably subbed him.
Agreed, bro. 1,000% agreed.
Which, if they rebook it, we do need to keep that in mind.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, I moved him down to 25. Probably go lower.
Imagine getting moved down on a win. And that's how bad his performance was. You know what I mean? Like, it's justified.
Move him down in a way. Exactly. And then, Quang Lee, I don't know. It was super hard to, like, power rank a guy. He's 0-1 in the UFC, but it was his first loss in his career. He showed me some things, obviously, that I liked, though. Like, that was still, I'd say, a good debut performance, short notice. Like, I think there's some things to potentially like.
I'm almost in not even Danny Barlow range with that. I'm just like, Chris Gutierrez eked out this win, and I know how good Chris Gutierrez was, but I just think we're being sold like a false bill of goods on Chris Gutierrez at this point, which makes you wonder, how do I rank Lee?
Exactly some of the questions I struggled with. I put him ahead of Cody Stamann. I'm just kind of like, I think Cody Stamann
pretty
on his way out. Yeah. So I dropped him at like, what is that, 53, right ahead of Cody Stamann, behind Chad Edhelliger. I like Chad Edhelliger's like I like the way he like boxes.
I'd love to start calling him Chin Edhelliger instead of Chad.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, Quang Lee. I mean, that's another one where small sample size and these things will work themselves out going forward. But yeah, I mean, this is all about how bad Chris Gutierrez looked in league. Chris Gutierrez is not going with any of these top 15 guys. Oh, and I said, I have him at 25, but I think almost like everybody in the top 35 could beat him. It's like, that's honestly partly on some like Dana White, John Jones, like scoring your past accomplishments into the equation.
Gutierrez Yanez would not be terrible just because I'm pretty out on both of them.
I have him in the same tier. I have Yanez at 29, so like that's like perfect matchmaking on my power rankings. I'm down for that. But man, let's keep it pushing. Because I gotta say, as much as Chris Gutierrez underperformed, fair to say that Yana Santos, I don't want to say overperformed, but she had a really good showing. You know what I mean?
I
She looked
thought
better
she
than I
looked.
thought she was going to look.
I thought she looked fantastic, and I thought Chelsea Chandler looked like she shouldn't be in the UFC.
And like honestly, man, the writing was on the wall there. Like Chelsea Chandler, bro. Like, and I know we kind of troll sometimes as far as the whole Tank Abbott fighters fortitude, and like it's fun to kind of throw out there and troll. But like for real though, like Chelsea Chandler does not have fighter fortitude. Like he just
Nor does she have the like technical skills. Like she lacks UFC quality caliber skills
or athleticism.
I know. I don't know how she's in the UFC. I'm legitimately surprised by it. But then I think to myself,
Ranked.
it's women's bantamweight. That's how she's in the UFC.
She was ranked 14 coming into this one. What in the fuck?
I know. It's so sad. That's why I was going to say I'll take heavyweight over women's bantamweight because their back end is so bad.
Oh, man. Yeah, Chelsea Chandler. She first off misses weight by 6 pounds, comes in at 141.
Just a nice 6 pounds. Just a nice 6 pounds.
Yana Santos was pissed off and talking shit about it and calling her out all week.
Rightfully so. Yana fought pissed off, which I really enjoyed.
She did. Yeah, she didn't pull the fucking Mikhaev where I'm gonna like act on that and then fight with zero aggression.
Like she was throwing push kicks and head kicks and all kinds of shit.
She stood on business. She stood on business.
And I appreciated that.
Me too. It was entertaining to watch. Like I enjoyed, the kick heavy attack from Santos. I mean, in round 1, she landed 2 head kicks, but she was attacking all 3 levels: body kicks, leg kicks, head kicks. I mean, having a great deal of success. I gotta say, and then once again, round 2,
she had the knockdown in round 2.
I don't have it noted down, but she could have. Maybe I interpreted it as more of a slip or a push.
She has a knockdown and scored for her, and I'm trying to remember because I don't remember like blatantly like, oh, a nice knockdown from Santos, but I think it was
I didn't remember that either. But maybe it was one of those things that was kind of blurred, like murky, like maybe we considered it a slip or something. But did you give Chandler 3?
I did. Begrudgingly.
I did too. Begrudgingly. That's the perfect word to use. Yeah, I mean, because she was moving forward. Did kind of quote unquote go for it. You know what I mean? But it was by far too little too late. And show a little bit of fires forward too. But I mean, like I said, it was too little too late.
It was a close enough round where her activity was probably enough to win her that round. But in that being said, Santos still won the round on one of the judges' cards, and I don't necessarily hate it.
No, because I do have the words close. It was hard to score.
Right. So imagine Santos coasting, Chandler going for it, and it's still only close.
Oh, for sure. And if it wasn't for, remember whenever Chandler did that little flurry to the body, that's basically what won her the round for me. I had it as basically a coin flip into that moment.
I agree. The body work did it. I fully agree.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm happy for Santos though, because she's had a murderer's row as far as scheduled wise. And so I moved her up to 12 in my power rankings, and she's 12 in the UFC rankings, or at least was.
By the way,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but real fast, I just forgot to announce this, and we'll get to it later. But Hossa is ranked 8, right, and Kyanza is ranked 11 in their fight. Well, there's 3 girls ranked number 8.
That makes me want to puke. That is
so it goes 7, 8, 8, 8, 11.
That's even dumber. At least have 3 extra girls in the rankings. The only upside to doing that, right? Am I wrong? The only upside to doing that, it's still, if it goes from 8 to 11, it's not 3 8s. It's 8, 9, 10. That's how math works.
I just have the personal philosophy of rankings are rankings for a reason, and you can't have anyone share the same ranking or else it's not a fair, ranking system. I just have never understood having 2 people in one spot. How can you?
Well, and even logic train wise, say you were a tied rankings person, it would go 8, 8, 8, still have 9, 10 in order to have it if they were truly tied.
Yeah.
To 11, that's not how math works.
But
one of them's 9 and 10.
But their principle is that there can only be 15 names.
Yeah, and I see that's where you lose. I think we're proving how dog shit it is. Even when you're trying to
steelman it,
when you're trying
impossible.
to yes. That was the way. Yes, that was the way to sum that up. But yeah, man. So I got Santos at 12. I couldn't jump her over Holly Holm. She lost to Holly Holm in 2023, so it wasn't like it was some ancient loss. I think Holly Holm is probably still better because Santos isn't going to be able to like strike from the outside against the Holly Holm. Although Holly Holm is 87 years old, so who knows?
I would like a
And then
Yana Santos Norma Dumont if I got to pick.
sure, sure, yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Kind of a who cares. But then Chelsea Chandler, I dropped quite a bit. I dropped her to 17. I could go lower, but it gets real bad. You
It's
get to
just
you get to the Eileen Perez's of the world and the Josie Ann Nunez's of the world and Melissa Mullins, and I mean it falls apart quick. You start sliding down women's bantamweight, but
it's an impossible division. Like if you're outside number 8, you're just not even worth a shit. And that being said, I know Yana Santos is number 12, but like, yeah, realistically, this division is just terrible.
I think she's literally the cutoff of good bantamweights because after her, I have Nora Canole, who is a prospect, like might be good, but also like most likely isn't. And then you got, the ghost of Misha Tate, and you got Tainara Lisboa, which it's like another one. It's like might be good, probably aren't. So it's like, it falls apart. It falls apart quick after Yana Santos. But I'll give her credit as like the last kind of bookend to being an actual legit pro fighter. But man, let's keep it pushing to one that I gotta say did shock me, but also like lesson learned here that I'm literally gonna take away from this and never do this again as a bettor. We got Toshiomi Kazama plus 200 taking on Charalampos Grigoriou minus 250. So Vegas like Grigoriou a lot too. We had Grigoriou on a parlay that hits aside from Grigoriou. God, it hurts to say. And then same thing. I had Grigoriou by KO parlay.
Bro, you know how mad I was when Herzog wouldn't stop this motherfucking fight?
That the other leg hit. So it was just brutal. But this is my takeaway here, and I'm gonna,
You and I have much different takeaways. No, we have much different takeaways. We got fucking robbed. If you look at this,
I don't feel robbed, but I feel like I learned something as a bettor. So we acknowledged on our betting breakdown that this was can-on-can violence, but we said that like Kazama was like a lower tier can than Grigoriou. Never betting on a can again. Like hard stop, full stop. Collaboration needed. I am never betting on a can again. Even if they're fighting another can, I don't fucking care. I'm not putting my money on a guy that I'm acknowledging fucking sucks.
I'll say cheers to that takeaway. I agree fully with that takeaway.
Like golden rule, new golden like golden rule.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. You know why I'm so upset? Chris Grigoriou dropped him and was feeding him 5 elbows where he doesn't eat a strike back. Kazama doesn't defend one of the elbows. He just keeps moving.
Yeah, see, and this is the reason why I'm not saying robbery, even though I'm using the word could have been stopped, not should have been stopped. I think that there is like a fine line delineation there where like if they stop that, I don't think anybody bats an eye or cries early stoppage.
That's why I'm so upset. And you're right. It's not a should have been stopped. This is a fight that could have been stopped. And if it wasn't Jason Herzog thirsty for fucking blood as he displayed later on in the night, I think we do get the TKO. If this is Tognoni and he sees Kazama get dropped like that, he's running over after 1 elbow and getting the guy off. Kazama ate 12 elbows, and of course Grigoriou blew his whole wad. He literally finished a guy and didn't get the finish.
Yeah, man, like and like your point of Herzog being on the Mariscal Jackson fight, like it really is like the illustration of. And I just realized we didn't stop between main card and prelims, but
no,
no,
it's a 6-fight main card. 4-fight
okay, all right,
so we're killing it.
All right, cool, man. But yeah. So like, could have been stopped, now should have been stopped. I'll say the damning evidence to like the whole should have been stopped thing is that the fact that he did the same thing in Jackson Mariscal. So It's like you don't get the benefit of the doubt whenever you're like, this is a trend at this point. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Like for some reason he was bloodthirsty last night. Doesn't make sense. He isn't always like that. And I like that Herzog gives the guys chances to defend themselves. And clearly in this fight, it makes a big difference because Grigoriou blows his whole wad. gets reversed, or doesn't even get reversed, just gets caught in a triangle and gets tapped out before it's even locked in tight because he's just
I
exhausted.
know. That's the part that hurt as a Grigoriou better. Like how quick he tapped like a submission that like really wasn't even locked in. That was a tough pill to swallow.
My
Like,
thing
that was
is
a bad look.
I'm 50-50 on who this loss is on. It's 50% Grigoriou and 50% Herzog. Because I think Grigoriou did enough to have the fight be stopped. And I think it's Herzog's right to not stop it.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
I'm at a huge crossroads because that one cost me a lot of money.
This is like some chael logic here, but there was one completed round, and it was won by Kazama.
That is good chael logic.
There's also that argument.
I do appreciate that. There is also the argument that Kazama landed 2 significant strikes in the fight.
And like I said, got the submission from he
from his back. Really do the thing. From his back. Didn't lock it in.
Wasn't even locked it. Yeah, like it wasn't even like a good triangle.
He literally his chin out-survived Grigoriou's cardio. Imagine.
That was this is when I had this epiphany of
can't bet on a can. And you're so right, bro. Whenever chin beats cardio and that's what the fight comes down to, I can't be caught. Caught me with my pants down is what you did with me betting on this fight.
That only happens in cans. Like a high-level fighter, that would never happen.
It will never happen.
Or even like a mid-level fighter.
A UFC quality fighter, that will not happen.
Yeah, that's some regional scene shit. Like if you go see King of the Cage or one of these regional shows, like that's the type of shit you see. And so I'm super out. Like I said, it's not like I'm like super in on Kazama after that performance. It was like, no, these are 2 cans. This was can on can, and like I said, you either take a loss or you learn a lesson. And then I'm turning that one into a lesson because that will save me money in the future. Never betting on a can, even if it's against another can. Never, 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 never. Lesson learned. Kazama gets a finish, gets a bonus, I believe. So, good on you.
He did get a bonus, which good for Kazama, however he says it. I mean, I'm sure he fights for like 8-8 or 10-10 or whatever the fuck it is. So that $50,000 probably goes a lot longer for him than most of these other guys. Good on him. Both of them deserve to be cut out of the UFC. They should be Dana White Contender Series standouts that stay there and fight in our 2-league promotion that we talk about all the time that UFC just isn't smart enough to adopt. It's the best model. I've started telling people at my work about it. It's so good.
It makes so much sense because then the UFC could actually, I think, save money, right? Because obviously you're not going to make the same on a Contender Series
contract. Like Contender Series contracts are 5-5, and like you get a chance to go fight for 15-15.
Yes, yeah. So and it would help the fans that are bitching about these dog shit Apex cards that kind of like clears like some of the riffraff out of these bottom of the divisions, like guys that are owed fights on their contracts.
That's me. I'm tired of these 14 fight cards where 3 of the fights couldn't matter for shit and they're just literally contracted fights.
Yeah, for sure, brother, man. But that wraps up our main card recap. You know, not one to write home about. But yeah, we'll be back in a second with these prelims because we're still out there going over every single fight on every single card. Hit subscribe because next week we have an actual good card to talk about, and we're going to give you our betting picks, and we'll be looking forward to that UFC 305? Was that where we're at?
305, yes sir. 305, yeah, yes.
305, yeah. So hit subscribe now. That way, whenever the good shit comes, you'll get that on your feed. And we'll be back in a second to recap these prelims. Thanks for watching, y'all.